Good morning. Welcome to the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, February 21st. I am Krista Yoakum. I am currently the chair. To my right is Sean Flowerday, our vice chair. To his right is Roma Amundsen, County Commissioner. To my left is Commissioner Rick Vest, and to the far left is Commissioner Matt Schulte. Will you please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, will you please start with the location announcement?
Of course. Location announcement of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available for electronic viewing from the county clerk's staff. Printing options are available upon request. The materials can also be viewed at the county website at lancaster.ne.gov. Item 1, minutes. 1A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on February 14th, 2023.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Would you please call the roll?
Vest,
Yes.
Amundsen,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yoakum.
Abstain.
Motion carries 4-0 with one abstention. Item 2, claims. Approval of the claims processed through February 21st, 2023.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundsen,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yoakum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 2B, approval of a claim to the Mediation Center in the amount of $10,150.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claim to the Mediation Center. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Abstain.
Amundsen,
Yes.
Yoakum.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0 with an abstention. Item 3, consent items. These are routine business items that are expected to be adopted without dissent. Any individual item may be removed for special discussion and consideration by a commissioner or by any member of the public without prior notice. Unless there is an exception, these items will be approved as one single vote of the Board of Commissioners. These items are the approval of A, amendments to the following county contracts: C-22-0493 with MMC Mechanical Contractors Incorporated for chiller replacement at a youth services center. A2, C-19-0401 with Hamilton Equipment Company for the annual supply of skid steer loader rentals. B, right-of-way contract with the Nebraska Public Power District Land Management, Southwest 42nd Street and West Olive Creek Road, in the amount of $1,619. And C, change order number 3 to county contract number C-22-0842 with Kindry Construction Co. for the installation of primary electrical services, it's installation of primary electrical service to the main transformer.
Move approval of the consent items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Please read the roll.
Amundsen,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yoakum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4, new business. A, declaration in the matter of terminating a local emergency pursuant to Nebraska Revised Statute 81-829-50.
Are you gonna
Is
bring
there,
up something?
is there a motion? Is
You
there-
can step forward and make a comment if you'd like.
That's traditionally, we have comments after
Yeah.
there's a motion.
Yeah, we need a motion to start this conversation.
It's actually been pretty common for us to have a conversation with people from the audience prior to a motion being made.
That's been staff who's presenting information to us.
Morning, Commissioners. That's correct. Commissioner Yoakum, it has been traditionally staff making the motions. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of a specific policy saying that members of the public cannot come up before a motion is made or seconded, but that has been the longstanding procedure here.
Yeah.
Well, I think
And I believe that, I mean, in my opinion, that's a precedent that we want to uphold, because sometimes we do have controversial items that come before us, and who should speak first, and those sorts of things. We need some decorum regarding that.
Yeah, it was always my understanding, I could be wrong, but it was always my understanding that we did a motion, staff would speak, commissioners would speak, we would do a motion, and then if there was something to discuss on the table, then members of the public could talk if they wanted.
That's correct, Commissioner Flowerday. It always has been staff.
Yeah.
As I remember, there's been times when there's been non-staff that have commented beforehand. We've had people involved in the broadband that we've had conversation with before an agenda. It's been pretty common practice to have conversation with.
They were people that we were contracting with. They were there as subject experts that we had required to come. to give us
Are there
information.
any subject experts who would like to speak on this topic? Okay, come on up. We've got subject
These are not
experts.
subject experts that we have asked to speak before us as a board, to inform us on an issue. For example, broadband, they were informing us on the process and on the work being done. So for that reason, I don't think it's proper.
So just so I can understand then, when is it appropriate for someone to comment on something that's on our agenda from the public?
Well, typically, if there's going to be a comment before we actually do a vote, we start with those who we've asked to come to provide us specific information. For example, broadband. We're contracting with a company for that. We wanted them to give us some updated information before we went to vote.
And I would add, Commissioner, that traditionally after staff makes a presentation and there's a motion and a second, then if there's an interested member of the public, that's the typical
Correct.
time for them to come up and speak.
Yes, I would agree to that, absolutely.
I
That's been our precedent.
understand that that's the hope. That has not been the practice in my time here.
That has
practice
not
in
been
my-
our written practice to my knowledge. And I'm going to defer to the chair, and I would just respectfully ask the board to respect the chair's decision in this case.
Will we be allowed to speak at all?
I recognize that there are people who came to speak on this issue, but because there has been no motion and no second yet, although that could happen, there will be no one speaking at this point. As well as during the public comment time, I just want to note that it is on the agenda, and this is typical practice, is that no one speaks on an item that is on the agenda. However, there is public comment at all of our meetings, and it could be appropriate to come at another point.
Well, I think that's,
I was invited here today.
You were not invited by the board.
I was invited by members of, invited by several members of the board to come today and speak on an agenda item, by several members of the board to come here and speak on
This
an
is
agenda
really
item.
out of order. Do we have a motion on this item?
it has been the practice that people have come up and spoken before an item has been moved. It seems to me like that's highly appropriate to let the public speak on an item that is on the agenda. If that's not the practice, then the policy needs to be changed. We shouldn't just use it at a time when it's expedient for our particular view.
In all of the time I've been watching this board, and we're going back 30-plus years, we're going back to before the sale of Lancaster Manor, when I was very involved with what was happening on this board. They have operated on precedent, not always on a written policy, but certainly on this is our common practice, and respect for those practices.
Is there an open comment at the end that we could speak on if it doesn't get a second?
There is open comment at the end of the meeting, but if you'll read the purpose of open comment, it is not to speak on any agenda items. That is, those wishing to speak on items relating to county business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
So if it,
And so today, it would not be appropriate. Now, another time when it's not on the agenda, it could be appropriate, absolutely.
today it wouldn't get appropriate because it will fail to get a
Because
second
it's on a,
motion.
no, because it's an agenda item.
So we can talk about it today as the agenda item.
No,
No.
sir.
That is, no, that's very clear. And it's really inappropriate for you to be addressing the board when it's not an appropriate time.
I was invited by several members of the board to come here and speak to you today.
That's true.
Several items?
Several members, yes.
If I may, I think that Commissioner Yoakum, you and Commissioner Schulte have valid points, that yes, it's not a current written rule that members of the public cannot speak. But Commissioner Yoakum is correct that we don't want a precedent of people coming up and speaking. And to address your future concerns and Commissioner Yoakum's concerns, we can amend the policy to make it staff only. It's my impression, sorry, that we're at an obvious impasse here, and we do need some resolution. And I would just again ask that the chair's decision be respected, and you're absolutely free to make your motion and your discussion, but it is not our historical procedure to have the members of the public testify at this
And
point.
if this item gets a motion and a second, then it would be appropriate. We
It
can invite
absolutely would.
people to
Yes.
comment.
Yes.
But unless it gets a second, the community is gagged.
Is,
No, sir.
No.
It's
'Cause we
just a
can't-
separate meeting. It's just you come at a separate meeting. It's not this agenda item, it's not the public comment at this meeting, but it's the next meeting.
I've stood at this podium before with this exact technique, where it's on the agenda, but the agenda is suppressed or moved to tabled, so you can't speak on it at the public comment portion, but you also can't speak on it on the agenda item because it's been tabled. And and this exact podium at the city council on this exact issue, and the exact technique is being happened.
and that would be a city council meeting.
Yeah,
And
and
this
this,
is a county
and this is
commission
being used
meeting.
the same thing at this meeting, at this exact podium, for this exact issue. We can't have a discussion about it?
You can, sir. You can come to the next meeting. And
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Why can't we
At
talk about it
another-
now? We have members of the community
Because-
that would like to
because the
speak
rules of
about it now.
Parliamentary procedure, sir, the board is convened, and it's just, it's not proper for you to make your statements at this time.
It sounds like it has been proper in the past, but you're thinking about making a policy for the future that would exclude it, but today, it's not excluded.
You are out of order, and we need to move on with this meeting.
I would point out that our policy does specifically say that we do not strictly follow parliamentary procedure. That's word for word out of our,
I just want to
Out of our
interject
open
here. I have
meetings.
a constituents meeting at 10:30 that they have asked me to drive to and attend, a concern they brought to me. We have a lot of business before us this morning, as well as a Board of Equalization meeting. I would like to see us, we've had clear direction.
You have about 7 constituents in the audience for a meeting with you today.
And you know what? I'm glad to speak with any of you. You have my phone numbers public, my email's public. Reach out to me. I'd be glad to have this discussion. But this
And-
is not.
This is not
It's been clear. This is not the time.
I called several of the board members, and I was invited here today to plead my case.
Well,
And I'm here today to plead my
and if they
case.
invited you inappropriately, I'm sorry. If they don't understand the procedures here, I apologize on their behalf. But you do not have the floor, sir.
I feel like that was a slander directed specifically at me, Rick, and I think that's highly
No,
inappropriate.
I don't know who
I
invited
am-
this gentleman. I don't know this gentleman. I am
You
not
just looked
slamming
at me but
anybody.
with a microphone. You said, you just whispered to me to stop this.
No, I did not. I said,
I didn't hear that.
I
you
know, 'cause he
said,
whispered
you
it
said,
to me.
I invited them. I said,
Who else? invited
quietly,
them?
I said, you are not the board. You are a member of the
I
board.
am.
I am not the board. We need to move on.
You need to
I agree,
proceed with this
Commissioners.
meeting.
I
Is
think-
there a motion on this item?
I make a motion to end the COVID emergency declaration by approving item 4A on today's agenda.
Is there a second? Seeing no second, please proceed, Mr. Clerk.
Item 4B, resolution in the matter of appointing members to the Pension Review Committee.
I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the new members to the Pension Review Committee. Please call the roll.
I have a comment on this. I have a comment on this agenda item.
Okay. Specifically, you're going to talk about the Pension Review Committee.
Yeah, the
And the new
Pension
members.
Review Committee, yeah.
I would just again mention this is a member of the public, and I'm sorry, has there been a motion in a second?
Yes.
Yes, there has been a motion and a second, John. Thank you, though. Thank you, though, for clarifying that.
My name is Samuel Lyon. I am a resident of Lancaster County. SAMUELLYON. My comment on the Pension Review Committee is that it's good to see that government is moving forward. It's good to see that we are making progress. There was a time when progress was stopped. There was a time when we paused the normal operating procedures of government bodies. We did that because there was an emergency. And there was a declaration that paused the normal operating procedures of government bodies and moved them to the executive branch. And when that was done, it was because of the unknown.
When
This
did
is
we
out of order.
pause the
If-
Pension Review Committee, sir?
Yeah, that's
When
never
was
been-
that paused?
The Pension Review Committee is a normal process of a governing operating body.
It is,
Yes. And as I
not paused.
and as I was saying, with the emergency declaration, it moved because we didn't know if
This,
Sir, it's related to the item of business that was previously
Yeah.
moved and did not receive a second, can be discussed.
there, yes, I thank you for that clarification. So we have a motion and a second.
I haven't
Ms.
done with my public comment on this on the Pension Review
It's not
Committee.
germane. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4C, resolution to temporarily close County Bridge R-202 located on Martell Road between South 162nd Street and South 176th Street until danger to the public is eliminated.
We do have the county engineer here before us to speak to this.
I have a comment as well
Happy
after
County Engineers Week.
she's finished.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been a little busy, so I'm out of sync with National Engineers Week, which doesn't usually happen to me, but yet here we are. So Bridge C-202 was built in 1962. It was built as a bequest from the estate of Jesse Betzer. And his bequest was he was sad because there were so many bridges closed in his township that he had difficulty running his farm. And so this is the last of 3 bridges that was built for approximately $7,000 in the 60s. We have rebuilt the other 2, and I would hope that Jesse would be happy that we've built those. I'm sure he would be sad that we have still closed this one. This is on Martell Road between 162nd and 176th Street. My office, I'm just going to say, we are maxed out with engineering right now. We have not determined whether we are going to try to fix this bridge in the spring or try to replace it next summer, and so we're still working on that. Nevertheless, the bridge has been determined to be a clear and present danger to the public. It had a similar construction to its sister bridges, and so I am recommending that it be closed.
Move approval.
Second.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second to
I
close
have a comment on
bridge.
this. I have a comment on this agenda item. My name is Samuel Lyon, SAMUELLYON. I am a lifelong resident of Lancaster County. The agenda item is on bridges.
Specifically, this bridge, County Bridge R-202
Yes.
on Martell Road.
Yes, and the bridge on Martell Road is up for closure. Bridges are designed to take us from one place to another place, from one time to another time. And the closure of this bridge is like the closure that we all experienced over the last 3 years. It blocks us from getting from one place to another place. And similar to the blocking that I've experienced here today. I don't like to play games. I don't like to play parliamentary procedure games. I just want to come and talk about what's happening, and we're being blocked. We get to here, we're on the road, and the road is closed. Can't come through. It's blocked. You can't come in here. But why can't we just talk about it? Can't talk about it. It's blocked. It's closed. You're going to have to go around. You can come back. You can still get there, but you got to go 3 miles out of the way. You got to just go down that way, come back next week. Well, can we talk about it after the agenda item during the public? No, sorry, because it's on the agenda. So sorry, I wish I could help you, but oh man, parliamentary procedure gets in the way again. And that's the feeling that I get when I drive up to a bridge that's closed, and it's closed. You can see where you're going. You see it on the other side. But for some reason, it's blocked. And that same frustration is what everyone in the audience who's come here today to talk about the emergency declaration is feeling. We scheduled time in our day to come here.
That item A,
We
talked about item A. We
never talked about it.
Well,
You blocked us from
we
talking about it.
talked about it as a board. You know, the board has the board's business, which you can see is a broad range of issues.
And one of them is the 3 years of emergency declaration that we just
Was
are
on the
trying to come
agenda.
through. Yeah, and we were blocked from talking about it.
Now, there are other avenues, sir. Mr. Lyons, there are other avenues.
I do not want to play games, but I will talk about every agenda item on the agenda today
That's
if we're
not a
blocked from
game.
talking about this one thing that I did come to talk about.
So
Sir,
you acknowledge
you
that
are-
it's dilatory behavior.
Exactly.
No, but I will talk about it.
That's just what that means.
You just
You will
said
not
it.
be acknowledged again to speak on that
I
issue.
think we have other options. You're disrupting the
Y-
process.
Right.
This isn't about you. This is about Lancaster County and the business before us, which you can see is significant.
As commissioners, we have respect for the process here and for the enormity of the duties before us, and we need to move through this agenda to continue the business of the county. And I would respectfully ask you to either take your seat or leave the chambers at this point.
I will wait till the next agenda item.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to temporarily close this bridge. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes, and I
Yes.
don't think this is an overreach of executive power on the part of the county engineer.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4D, resolution in the matter of authorizing the county board chair, vice chair to sign professional services agreement supplement number 1 with the Nebraska Department of Transportation for preliminary engineering.
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. So last week it was Commissioner's Best Road. This week it is a road in Commissioner Schulte's area, which is South 68th Street. So this item and the item that precedes it are in regards to the design of South 68th Street to include widening and intersection improvements from Stagecoach Road all the way down to Firth. The cost of this project is being paid for as an 80-20 split. 80% will be paid for through federal funds. Some are highway safety improvement funds, and some funds are MPO funds. And you may also notice that there is not an engineer listed in the item preceding, and that is because we will be doing the design for this project in-house, and we're super excited about that.
As always, I appreciate the engineer's office's attempts, and in this case, very successful attempts, to find additional federal dollars to be able to lock into these projects. It's great for our community. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
I
you.
move approval of the item.
Second.
for you.
We have a motion and a second
I have
on
a
this
I have a
item.
comment on this agenda item.
You have already admitted that you intend to only disrupt.
No, that's not
I
what I
am not
admitted.
going to acknowledge you for comment.
I
Mr.
told you
Clerk?
that I have a comment on the agenda items. I have a comment on this item.
Discuss this real quick. This 68th Street expansion has been so long needed for Hickman and Norris. This is absolutely worth celebrating. The work that Pam Dingman does, the tireless work she does to take care of the infrastructure in our county. So I really appreciate the engineer, and I totally agree with you, Sean. It's great when we can find dollars outside of our own local county dollars to make these projects happen. So thank you. Thank
Roads
you.
funding that for once isn't going on property tax. So, yeah.
That's always great. Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4E, Professional Services Agreement Supplement Number 1 with the Nebraska Department of Transportation for preliminary engineering services.
I move approval.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
I have a comment on this issue.
I am not acknowledging you for comment on this issue. Will you please leave the chambers, or we could have you escorted from the chambers? Your intent is only to disrupt, and you are not providing information that is helpful to the discussion of this agenda.
I
item.
have a public comment. Are you blocking me from using it? As the chair? Is that your decision?
As the chair, I am holding up to our standards of only speaking about the specific agenda item and not revisiting other agenda items previously addressed.
Are you threatening me with arrest for
I
a
am
public
not
comment?
threatening you with arrest. I am asking you to please leave the chambers peacefully, or you could be escorted from the
I have a
chambers.
public comment on the agenda item.
No, we've been down this road.
You're blocking me. Are you officially blocking me from public comment? That's all I need to know.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
This is
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4F, resolution in the matter of authorizing the county board chair, vice chair to sign professional services agreement supplement number 1 with Felsberg, Holt, and Olvig for preliminary engineering.
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. This item and the item that precedes it are also in regards to South 68th Street from Stagecoach Road to Firth Road, and this is for the environmental work that is required in order to build this road. And so this work will be done in conjunction with the design.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4G, Professional Services Agreement Supplement Number 1 with Felsberg, Holt, and Olvig for environmental services.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item G. Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4H, agreement with Bauer Underground Incorporated for installation of broadband conduit in the southwest quadrant of Lancaster County. The county will utilize American Rescue Plan Act funds for this project, and the cost of the county for this agreement is not to exceed $2,263,946.92.
Move approval.
Second.
Commissioners, I just wanted to note that we are still waiting for Bauer Underground's signature. So our agreement will be contingent upon receiving that. We do expect that shortly.
Thank you. Would you like to restate the
Yeah, I
motion?
move approval with a contingency that we receive the signature.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. 4I, agreement by the county to lease 57.69 acres of agricultural land to Andrew Newhar for $85.37 per acre for 1 year.
Good morning, morning, Commissioners. Karen Peterson, Director of Facilities and Property. This is the third lease agreement for this particular parcel of land that you purchased about 3 years ago now for the East Corridor Beltway protection. This is a gentleman that basically farms hay and keeps the weeds knocked down so we don't have to pay somebody to do so. On an annual basis, he is going to pay us $4,925, and that does cover the real estate taxes.
Great,
Karen.
move approval.
Karen, thank you for your work on this. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Pass Andrew on our thanks as well.
Yes. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes,
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4J, agreement with the Lincoln Marriott Cornhusker Hotel to provide a meeting room and services for the Lancaster County Employee Recognition Breakfast on May 16th, 2023.
I move approval, and thanks to everybody who's worked so hard to make this happen.
Yeah.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes,
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4K, agreement with Encore to provide audio equipment for the Employee Recognition Breakfast on May 16th, 2023 in the amount of $448.30.
move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes,
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 4L, agreement with Ray Freeman Communications Consulting LLC to access the public safety radio system needs of Lancaster County's rural fire districts. The cost of the county is not to exceed $25,000. American Rescue Plan Act funds will be utilized for this project.
Good morning again. We do have RFCC's signature on the contract and some preliminary insurance information. We're still waiting on proof of additional insurance endorsements, so you approving this contract would be contingent upon receiving that information.
I move approval of this contract contingent upon receiving the information Candace alluded to.
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this contract. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes,
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Item passes 5-0. Item 4M, contracts with the following to provide a unit price and moving services. 1, Select Van and Storage Incorporated, and 2, World Class Office Installers Incorporated.
move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes,
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item N, contracts with the following to provide a unit price on fencing services. 1, No Joke Lawn Care. 2, Empire Fence and Netting. 3, American Fence of Lincoln. 4, Salt Valley Fence Company.
I move approval.
I'll second that, and that's no joke.
We have a motion and a second to approve this.
One of the contractors is named No Joke Lawn Care, so.
Yeah. Interesting name. Please call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
yes,
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 5 is legislative update.
Commissioners, our lobbyist has informed us that LB 394 has been set for hearing on Thursday. This was a bill that was brought to our attention by the county engineer's office. It changes provisions relating to eminent domain. Specifically for our purposes, it would change the amount of reimbursement due to a condemnee to 2 times the fair market value of agricultural land. We would recommend a position of oppose for that reason, and the county engineer is willing to go testify.
Here, so, yeah,
Okay.
let's have Pam come
Yeah.
up on this.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
yeah,
Obviously, with this particular bill, I'm very concerned. I'm concerned at the cost that it could cause the county we currently buy, and you know this because you see them on your consent agenda every week, probably, a little over 100 pieces a year on average, but it's not average for us because we're also trying to get through the ARPA pipes, and now we have all the federal aid projects. And so if we were to have to abide by this, what would happen is every single piece of ground would require an appraisal at the cost of $2,700 to $3,200 a piece, and then double the amount of the farm ground. And so our concern is that this would dramatically raise the number of condemnations that we have, as well as have some unintended consequences with the expenses.
And so you're asking that we oppose LB 394? Would you be willing?
I am asking that you would oppose LB 394. I have prepared testimony to testify this week in opposition of this bill. And of course, what I'm hoping, Commissioner Vest, is that I can say my office and the Lancaster County Commissioners oppose.
I would move that we oppose LB 394 and ask the engineer to testify.
And I would second that.
We have a motion and a second to oppose LB 394 and authorize the engineer to testify on this. Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 6, public comment. Those wishing to speak in items related to county business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
I'm going to remind the public that this is only to speak on items that are not on the agenda and for no more than 5 minutes.
My name is Russ Barger, Russbarger. I'm a resident of Lancaster County. I do want to speak about the county's COVID response.
That was an agenda item previously, so it's not appropriate to speak about that at this time.
I believe the
You
agenda
could
item
come-
was to end the COVID emergency. It seems to me like it would be appropriate for someone to talk about the COVID response if they're not here to specifically comment on the end to the COVID.
Okay, as long as that is not part of what you're going to speak about. 5
That's
minutes.
true. That's true. So I am a county resident. Let me just state that the state of Nebraska ended their specific COVID response in June of 2021. There were certain metrics of success and their milestones that they had to meet when they were looking at that, and they decided that it was no longer important for them to have those requirements in. It's important for the county to consider whether the risk of harm is so high in this county compared to other counties in the state. I don't think that most other counties consider this to be a significant situation. They don't consider it an emergency anymore. What the county has done has resulted in certain entities within the county having requirements. For instance, Wesleyan University has a continued masking mandate, a COVID vaccination mandate. In particular, unless you can get a medical or a religious exemption, all students coming in and current students have to get a vaccine. I have several documents that I would like to present to the board. Do I just provide those to the clerk and then she distributes them? Okay. So what I've provided is a letter that I prepared. It lists several websites showing, of course, what has happened in other countries in response to COVID, especially for children. Sweden no longer recommends the vaccination for children. Denmark no longer recommends the vaccination for people under 50. Finland no longer recommends the vaccination. This is for COVID, of course, for young children. And Florida has stated that that recommends against vaccination for healthy children and adolescents under the age of 17, and also recommends against vaccination for males ages 18 to 39. All of those links are on the websites that I just provided to the board. What I'd also like to remind the board is that there have been a number of medical folks who I think will probably come up and talk about the harms to children of how COVID has been handled in this county following me. But I would implore you to actually go get a copy. In fact, I will give you the $10 if you want to get a copy and promise to read this. It's from Robert Kennedy Jr. It's called A Letter to Liberals. I'm going to read just one statement of his on page 69. I mean, he has footnotes to literally everything in here. Paragraph 10.5, vaccinating children causes more harm and death than it averts. On March 10th, 2022, CDC admitted in response to a Freedom of Information request that it has not a single record of a healthy child under age 15 dying from COVID. Not one. That's out of March 2022. However, the vaccine imposes a high risk, 1 out of every 2,700 of causing myocarditis in young boys. They had similar results from a study in England and in Indiana. So what you do or don't do about COVID is going to have effects. The letter that I provided to you lists those different states that have basically recommended against vaccination. It is possible that continued requirements like this county has may result in liability to the entity that's requiring the vaccination. But if they're relying on governmental entities to enforce that type of revocation of your constitutional rights, then there may be proximate cause that reaches the county.
That is time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Carleen Barger, C-A-R-L-E-E-N, Barger, B-A-R-G-E-R. I'm a cardiac nurse at a local hospital here in Lancaster County, and I have observed the crippling effect of the COVID fear. We have a close friend who nearly lost his life due to COVID. I understand that COVID is real. But there has been mismanagement on many levels, and we mustn't lament and virtue signal and stay in this state of fear. And I'm giving you some ideas as a county. I'm asking you to stop promoting vaccines that do not provide true immunity. They're causing more harm than good, and I'm seeing it. I'm taking care of these patients. I'm asking you to put your county money into better ventilation into all county buildings, especially where those who are most vulnerable are housed, our nursing homes. Work on getting fresh air in to help dissipate any viruses. That will help protect the vulnerable. Promote wellness programs and sports, not only for children, but for adults in Lancaster County. There's nothing more healthy than playing outside and getting vitamin D. I'm asking you to also support never again stopping school in person. Our learning has been stifled in our children. And no matter what certain government people feel, they were able to pay for private tutors. Most of us are working, and our children suffered. The pandemic has been over, no thanks to mass vaccinations. Consistent with global patterns, U.S. deaths attributed to COVID in 2022 after vaccinations were initiated were higher than in 2020. Mass vaccinations have contributed to permanent damage to persons' immune systems. People are now more susceptible to illnesses and COVID, cancer, microclotting, and multiple other health issues, and I'm helping to take care of them. I'm asking you as a board to reconsider how you can help the health of those in Lancaster County that you serve. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Brooks, Catherine with a C, last name Brooks. I'm a physician, board certified in pediatrics and neonatology, and locally practicing neonatology, and I only represent myself. From a personal, I'm a mother, and a professional standpoint, I have watched the COVID-19 pandemic unfold. Although initially wrought with uncertainty, it quickly became clear that children were significantly less affected than the adult population. The youngest and smallest patients are often the ones most severely affected from viral respiratory illnesses. But this has interestingly and consistently not proven true with COVID-19. Even the smallest of patients, those in the newborn intensive care unit, have shown little to no signs of illness even when they test positive for COVID-19. In the pediatric population, the numbers reported by the CDC have always been low for hospitalizations. Data on the number of pediatric hospitalizations throughout the country have remained very low, and those low reported numbers are actually even lower when retrospectively analyzed. In one review, out of 117 pediatric hospitalizations reported as COVID hospitalizations, 45% of them were later determined to be very unlikely due to COVID. In another large retrospective review of those hospitalized with a positive COVID test and age less than 22 years, 87% of them were deemed to be incidentally positive or potentially symptomatic, but only 14% of them were significantly symptomatic. So that means 87% of them were unlikely to be related to COVID, but were billed, for a lack of a better term, as COVID hospitalizations. Very recently, a review looking at 3 specific time periods correlating to Alpha, Delta, and Omicron variants showed that what we all intuitively know. The risk in pediatrics has decreased significantly since the beginning of the outbreak. The risk was low to begin with and is even lower now. The risk of the proposed and advocated solution, however, is not low. When an individual's risk of a disease is already markedly low, an intervention to decrease that risk even further must be exceptionally safe. From a statistical perspective, if the risk of an illness is already low, it is very, very difficult to decrease that risk even further with an intervention, and to do so, the intervention would need to be given to many, many people. By simple nature of statistics, this then decreases the benefit to any individual who is already at a very low risk. Additionally, if there is any risk to the individual attributable to the intervention itself, it must be lower than the native risk, and it must be made known. With the already low risk of hospitalization less than 0.5 per 100,000 in the last year, and the peak throughout the last 3 years, this is in the pediatric 0 to 17 population, of 1.24 per 100,000. These are the CDC reported numbers. And risk of death is even lower because most people, and especially children who are hospitalized, do not actually die. An intervention does not appear statistically warranted. It must be noted that with either EUA-approved gene therapy inoculation, the odds of myocarditis in children increases from baseline by 8 to 30 times. This increased risk translates to 4 to 28 excess events of myocarditis per 100,000 inoculations given. The variation depends on the number of doses that are given and also the product that is used. It is also known that that the risk increases with each additional dose. Compare this to a hospitalization rate of less than 0.5 per 100,000 children. And what is the appropriate conclusion? As a matter of public health, continued encouragement from the state for children to receive this should stop. In summary, the risk of pediatric hospitalization and death has been inflated, but even with inflated numbers has always been exceedingly low. The benefit of an intervention when the native risk is already low must be very high and very safe. We know that the risk of the said intervention is not low and the intervention is not safe. Therefore, a local government encouragement for said intervention needs to stop. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Hello, my name is Dr. Mary Beth Canning, and I'm here as a private citizen. I live in Lincoln. My testimony is my own. My opinions are my own. I'm presently not working. I'm retired. I would like to give out a handout besides my phone timing me, which is not doing. I'd like to present you with a handout that I'd like to follow during my presentation, if that is okay. And I apologize, I'm not that familiar with your protocol here.
You're doing quite fine. And we do have someone timing you, so
Okay.
you don't need to worry about watching yours.
Okay, thank you. This was a letter that was put out by the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. If you'll turn to the back page, importantly, the American Association of American Physicians and Surgeons is nonpartisan professional associations of physicians, organized in 1943, and prides themselves in following the highest ethical standards according to the Oath of Hippocrates and our traditional medical ethics that have developed in this country over our history in the United States. So to begin with, I'd like to draw your attention to point number 1 and point number 7 in this handout, which states that young adults are healthy and immunologically competent, and they are an extraordinarily low risk for COVID-19 morbidity, which means sickness, and mortality, which means death. Point number 7, again, stating that students have natural immunity. Their immune systems are strong and they recover from the virus, and they hence develop natural immunity from the virus. Point number 6, the research data points to the spike protein as a toxic source of the morbidity which we are recognizing in our communities, an example of which is myocarditis. This spike protein, which is part of the COVID vaccine, is a toxic molecule. It causes injury to heart muscle. It also causes injury to blood vessels, which is why we are seeing an increase in strokes and cardiovascular disease. Point number 4, this paper references vaccine adverse effects reporting system, which is known as VAERS, if you're not familiar with it. It's part of the CDC and the FDA, and it has steadily noted and updated every week the number of deaths in the United States and the number of adverse events. It's very, very significant that it's estimated that only 1% of the deaths and the adverse events are being reported. As of December 22nd, it was reported by VAERS, I believe, that the current deaths in the United States attributed to the vaccine are estimated, I believe, to be in the tens of thousands, and the adverse events are in the high range of the hundreds of thousands. All right. I've talked a little bit about myocarditis. It's inflammation to the heart muscle. We are seeing it in our young people, particularly our young athletes, when they exert their hearts during physical exertion. The thought to be pathological mechanism is that their heart muscle has been injured by the spike protein.
1 minute.
This in turn causes a heart arrhythmia, a heart attack, and heart failure. I think commonly we all understand that vaccines, we hope, provide immunity and prevent transmission. We now know from our community, our friends and our family, this COVID vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, does not prevent transmission. It does not provide immunity. The risks to our young people are tragic, and they are not at risk from the virus, and I thank you for your time.
You may proceed.
My name is Samuel Lyon. I am a resident of Lancaster County. I was born and raised in Lancaster County. Before this morning, I've never appeared before you, before this board. 40 years, and I've never come before you to express an opinion, to make a persuasive argument. Last night, I was invited to come and make a persuasive argument to you, or attempt to communicate something to you by multiple members of your board. Now, I'm told I can't make that case. I can't speak on the thing which I was prepared to speak on. So what I want to talk to you about is collaboration. Collaboration can happen between individuals on your board. It can happen between your board and the general public, your constituents, and it needs to happen. We need to have collaboration. What do you need for collaboration? Do you need to always agree? No, you can collaborate with someone you disagree with. Do you need to have the same views? No, you don't have to have all the same views to collaborate. But you need good faith. If you don't have good faith in the other side, you cannot collaborate. And this morning, I've seen a distinct lack of good faith. I've seen the attempt to block one board member from bringing forth an opportunity to invite the community into a collaborative discussion. And one member said, hey, let's invite the community into a collaborative discussion. We won't all agree on everything that they say. We have different views. We have different parties, but that doesn't mean we can't collaborate. That doesn't mean we can't work together. Let's work together. But 4 members blocked that new member from inviting the community to collaborate by simply failing to second the motion. And by failing to second the motion, you actively blocked the community from being invited into a collaborative conversation. And I was part of that community that was blocked. I don't like to play games. I like efficiency. You going somewhere, you get in your car and you go there. But when we get these roadblocks after roadblocks after roadblocks, simply just simply to block you, just to mess with you, it shows me there's no good faith coming from the board to the community. And then it starts to feel like lip service of asking for collaboration, but not really wanting to collaborate, not really wanting to have a discussion with the other side or with somebody who you think may disagree with some aspect of what you think. Okay, now it's on the agenda, but we didn't second it, so therefore you can't talk about it when it's on the agenda, but you also can't talk about it at the end during open comment when you can talk about anything you want. You can talk about anything, but not the thing that we want to block you from. You can't talk about that thing. And it just becomes frustrating to the community because we can see you don't want to collaborate on this. You don't want to have a conversation. That's all we came here for, just to have a conversation, just to have our, to say what we think. And when we see you not only blocking your fellow board members from inviting the community, you block us and you play games with us. It's just disheartening. And so what's done is done. I couldn't talk about it. We couldn't talk about what we came here to talk about. But I would invite you to rethink it. Think about it. You don't have to vote to end it, but at least second the motion so that we can have an open dialogue, an open conversation, a collaborative effort.
there anyone else here to speak? Please come forward.
My name's Steve Steinkuhler. I am a longtime resident of Lancaster County. I relocated here from Kansas City, Missouri, home of the Kansas City Chiefs. Very proud of that, so I'm putting it on a record. I'm going to give somebody this document that I prepared. It's a two-pager. It's not long to read. I went through some research. I'm not going to get into that because there's a ton of research. By the way, my name is Dr. Steven Steinkuhler. I have a PhD in leadership and organizational management, and I'm a healthcare professional. Retired 8 years. I never thought I'd have to get back into medicine and talk about it other than with family, but my life has changed all of a sudden. Just so you know, I was director of pulmonary medicine, sleep medicine at Bryan when I came here in 1977. In addition to that, I spent time traveling the state of Nebraska, working with hospitals, on physician and executive recruitment, hospital administration for Bryan Memorial Hospital. I say Bryan because when I came here, that's what it's called. It's been through many iterations. And then I was the chief operations officer for a psychiatric group in Lincoln and Omaha. So I do have some experience in healthcare. So I'm going to, the comments that I put in here are kind of an overview of a lot of different things you can read if you want to take 3 or 4 hours and sit down at a computer and look through and read some stuff. I thought I was done with medicine other than my personal health, but I guess I'm not going to be because I have some feelings on this. I want to get them out. And I like to say I agree it is time to do away with what was suggested here. I don't know how many times ago I just became aware of it. But on the flip side, it's also time to have a discussion, and not just here. It's across the state. I was on a computer last night looking at the, I'll show my ignorance here, the directives that various counties issue related to health care. And I was a little surprised. It's kind of all over the board. But from my experience in traveling around the state, it doesn't have to be. And you are in a unique position because of being on a county board, because I worked with county boards around the state of Nebraska, to affect change, positive change, and leadership for the state of Nebraska. And I don't know any other way to say that. In another life and another job that I'm working on now, I'm familiar that there's a lot of county boards. They have a lot of responsibility. They have large budgets. They can affect change. You can affect change. But we need other people. This is a public health issue. It's not just a Lincoln, Nebraska issue. It's not just a Iowa or Kansas issue. And no matter where you go, you're going to find out different things, and you're going to hear what's working and what's not working. And we need to ask ourselves that question. What is working? What is not working? But we need to have the right people in the room. We need to have the right leaders in the room. You are the leaders. Governor Ricketts called a town hall last August, I believe, and it had to do with a 30 by 30 program under a president order that was implemented to take land and convert it to the federal government. The county boards are learning about this in the state of Nebraska, and they're talking. I don't know, I assume that you all are in collaboration with your various constituents, your various people doing the job that you're doing, and you're talking about things. Why not hold a town hall? Why not invite your constituents as well as the other leaders that do this? Let's kick this off and let's have a discussion. You all can do that. I don't know about Omaha, but I know about Lincoln. I think the time is right. The other part of the work that I do is I spend time working at the legislature, and I'm not really paid. I just am part of an organization that's trying to affect change in this country. And I talk to senators down there. This is a big issue. We couldn't even get a little bit more discussion on COVID through the legislature. The legislature needs to be involved. At least the people in the legislature that want to talk about it a little bit, and there are people there that want to talk about it. I hope not all 49 senators want to talk about it at the same time. We'd have a real problem. Anyway, that's all I need to say. I apologize for not being present at the county board meetings, but I guess I have to change my schedule, so I'll be here on Tuesdays, but then I can go over to the legislature and spend some different time. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it. Take care.
Are there any other public comments? Please read the announcements, Mr. Clerk.
Item 7, announcements. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will attend the Lincoln Electric System Energy Summit Breakfast on Thursday, February 23rd, 2023 at 7 a.m. at the LES Operations Center. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold a staff meeting on Thursday, February 23rd, 2023 at 10 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold its next regular meeting on Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 9 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building. County Commissioners can be reached at 402-441-7447 or commish@lancaster.ne.gov. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting is broadcast live on LNK TV. LNK TV is available on Allo Channel 2 and Spectrum Channel 1300. For the rebroadcast schedule, visit lincoln.ne.gov. Meetings are also streamed live on YouTube and Facebook. LNK TV apps are available on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Item 8 is adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned.
We will now open the Board of Equalization meeting. Once again, Mr. Clerk, will you please read the announcements?
Location announcement of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall of the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available for electronic viewing from the county clerk's staff. Printing options are available upon request. These materials can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Item 1 is minutes. Approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held on Tuesday, February 7th, 2023.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Will you please call the roll?
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 2 is the additions and deductions to the tax assessment rolls.
Move approval of the additions and deductions.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the additions and deductions to the tax assessment rolls. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Number 3 is the appeal on disqualification from special greenbelt valuation. Item 3A is Tom and Deanna Prefert.
We'll hear first from staff, and then we'll have allow you time to respond.
Yeah, hi, Derek Niederklein with the Lancaster County Assessor. The Prefert appeal of the special value denial, we've gotten information since then on appeal. We've reviewed that information, and that was a Schedule F, an income statement for that parcel. It's approximately 34 acres. Upon our review, we identified that the property wasn't used for the primary purpose of an agricultural or horticultural product. The property owner acknowledged that last year in the protest season. They've since filed income and expense information. I think it's part of the minutes. The primary purpose on that is listed as wildlife refuge, and in reviewing it, our conclusion is still that that parcel is not primarily for the production of agricultural, horticultural products. So our recommendation, so we stand by the disqualification that was originally sent.
It's one of the ones where the legislature changed the law in 2019 and kind of tied our hands on what we can do on this.
Yeah, the definition of agriculture was amended slightly to include that for particularly parcels under 5 acres, they have to have an income and expense showing profit.
I just remember it became a lot more prescriptive and tied our hands on this stuff. Okay. So the staff recommendation is to deny the appeal for just.
Correct.
And are Tom and Deanna Preferred here to to make a comment?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion first. I recommend that we deny the appeal for disqualification from the Greenbelt valuation.
You have a second?
Yes, second that.
Yes, please, proceed, please.
So were you voting to?
We didn't vote, we only made a motion a second. We'd like to hear from you.
Okay.
And then we will vote. Unfortunately, as Commissioner Flowerday established here, to a certain extent, our hands are tied on this because we have to follow what the legislature put in order, but we would like to hear from you. These are hard for us to rule on because oftentimes we are very sympathetic, but there's not much we can do.
Well, and I heard that the law changed on 5 or under acres. Is that what was said?
Yes.
Okay, and we had 35 acres. Just so it's.
And our tax preparer, when we first moved out there, we were improving the land for wildlife, so she just decided to put the primary purpose as wildlife.
On our tax
on
form.
our taxes, but that wasn't the purpose for it. For some reason, that's what she chose. We never thought anything about it. She just put that on there, so.
But we have, since we moved out there in 2006, we have rented the ground for crop. We've had beans, we've had corn, had a farmer do that for us. We had it enrolled in a conservation project up until 2017, I believe, which at that time we were asked to either burn the land, burn the ground, or disc and plant. We could not find a farmer who was willing to put a disc in our rocky ground. So we talked about burning. We considered that. It's very close to our house. We did not feel that was a viable option. And again, with the wildlife, we did not want to destroy habitat for that. We have, since taking it out of the conservation program, we have harvested walnuts, and we also, and hazelnuts that we sell basically to friends or through farmers markets or work or whatever. We also have an egg production that is basically the income reported on our Schedule F last year. In 2020 and 2021, there was no income to report due to COVID restrictions. We were a little leery of putting anything edible out there during that time, so we did not have any income to show. We have filed a Schedule F from 2016 on. So
we've been producing eggs and selling eggs for 15 years.
Yeah.
I know sorry, I'm going back like 18 months here since we had one of these, or maybe it wasn't quite that long, 14 months or something. I know that the legislative requirements are you have to demonstrate a financial gain or loss.
Right.
Are you able to demonstrate a financial loss on it?
Yes.
On our taxes,
that would be in
year.
the Schedule F, and we've submitted all that, so.
Every year we show.
And why didn't that qualify? What was the
would you
difference
remind
there?
us?
Yeah, so I think they made a key point that in 2017, their land was enrolled in a conservation reserve program. And under the definition of agricultural land, land that's enrolled in a conservation program for which payments are received for removing it from agriculture does meet the definition of agricultural land. So that's how they had special valuation. That ceased in, it sounds like 2017. And so now we're looking at the, if it was enrolled in a conservation program, if a majority of the acres were, then it would qualify. I think.
We tried to re-enroll it. We went through the Farm Bureau, and there was no program to put it back into.
Right.
So we could not re-enroll it in, we would have rolled it back into a 10-year.
Right.
But there wasn't a 10-year plan available then because they were phasing that out at that time,
Yeah.
the CRP. So we are producing eggs, we're selling eggs, we are.
And the
making
walnuts,
income.
which it's horticulture also.
We have a lot of walnut trees. I sell the logs to bowl makers. They pay for the walnuts and then they make bowls. And that's an in. So just because we don't have row crops, we still.
Right.
All right.
Farm income.
And so refresh me, why doesn't this then qualify?
Particularly with
The last gentleman we had, he was basically trading the hay he was collecting, but he was bartering it. He couldn't show a profit.
Right.
And so, I mean, if you're doing financial transactions, someone gets currency, someone, gets a product, all right, then.
Yeah, and that's
doesn't that qualify?
that's certainly for the board to decide. When it comes to egg production, again, the definition of agricultural land is the primary use of the parcel beyond the land directly associated with the buildings. And so I do have a picture. I do have a picture of their place that would show. That would show.
Takes a minute there.
Okay. There we go. So I assume this would be the egg.
No.
The chicken.
This here is the chicken
Okay.
house, but they are let out of that house. They're free range.
There's a large run area.
So during cold weather, they don't like to walk on snow, things like that. So there is this cleared run area back behind
Fenced
that they're in. But they are also able to roam the entire property. We try, because of predators, to keep them somewhat contained, but they have wandered to the other side of the creek.
Now,
and
this
things like
other building over there, he shows can also be for chickens when I expand, and I plan to do that.
And that was the thing. We were both working full-time when we moved out there, and we are now both retired, and that's kind of what we wanted to pursue in our retirement, was expanding and looking at things like maybe planting pumpkins and, having people come to gather those too. But,
And, we read the laws and everything, and just because we don't have the row crops, bees are an agricultural product. Lumber, there's a lot of things that are agricultural products that aren't corn and soybeans.
Right.
And that's right in the law.
And you are trading with those, you are
We're not
selling
trading,
those?
We're selling.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying, sorry.
Market, they're on market.
You are in market, you are selling those items.
Yes.
Farm fresh
Yes.
eggs are going for $5 to $7.
Yeah, no.
a dozen.
We know. Yeah.
And so we are.
And this last year was really just kind of our year of coming back from COVID, and we're really, expanding that this year. And we can't buy more chickens until I think it's April or March or something, so.
I appreciate you guys coming out, and I appreciate the work you've done. I'm going to stand with the Preferts on this. I appreciate your willingness to come and, show us your taxes. You didn't need to do that, but to show us that there is money actually being transacted. It's an interesting place in law, right? If the law was clear, then there wouldn't be a need for appeals. And they're in an appeal process. Now it's up to us to decide whether or not this qualifies as agriculture. And I'm going to stand with the Preferts and say, yes, I think this is agriculture. So I'm going to vote no on your motion, just so you know, Sean.
Well, and I might be adjusting the motion. The last time we did this, 14 months ago or whatever it was, it was clear. I remember the conversation pretty well, I think. It was pretty clear that the primary use of the land wasn't agricultural. Why do we think it's not now? This sounds pretty agricultural to me.
Yeah, well, and again, they brought good facts. We'll talk about the facts ultimately. I understand why our staff rejected this under the definition of the commercial production. This is their home site. This area is excluded from the analysis by law. It's land directly associated with the buildings. This is the remainder of the parcel. The other probably 30 acres. And so the question becomes, what is the primary use of the additional 30 acres? If walnuts and firewood is,
Not firewood.
or
That's our use.
There's hundreds of walnut trees. I harvest them, I
Yeah.
sell them to people that make bowls, and there's
So
a
artists
high-
use
okay,
them.
yeah, sure.
There's a high market for walnut wood to make bowls out of.
And that would be this
The whole
entire
wooded area.
area there.
Right. And so, yeah, when we looked at the 3 years of income statements, there's substantial losses recorded. 2 out of the 3 years had no gross income. 1 year had $1,050 for gross income. So commercial production.
And that's gross versus net. Net meaning
Yes.
that they did have income, but they didn't maybe have enough to make a lot of money, which would be gross.
Right,
correct?
right,
Just
right,
clarifying
right.
that.
And the law,
Correct.
and the law said they can make or lose money at it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Can I say
commercial.
something? I called the county assessors, and I said, what do we need to do to prove our farm? And they said, well, just send in your F form and show a gain or a loss. And our F form showed gain or a loss, so we thought we were gonna be fine, but for some reason, that wasn't enough. And we don't understand why.
Yeah,
I
and
think because the only information they had that we were agriculture was when we were enrolled in a government project.
Correct.
And when we left that government project and switched over to something else, I mean, they had no way of knowing unless they asked us, or, I don't know how they
yeah,
When we
yep.
bought
when
eggs
we
from
bought this
us.
property, we only had like 1.5 acres of farmable ground. And part of that was easement. No farmer would drive down an easement to farm an acre, because you burn up more diesel fuel just driving. And the front was very little, nobody wanted, and the rest of it's so rocky, nobody will farm.
And I do believe that the law states wasteland is included in the agricultural.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
only if the parcel's determined to be agricultural. So, yeah.
Okay.
Right. So that's based on the additional 30 acres. What's the primary use of that? And if the board decides that the income they've earned is sufficient, then that's what it would be.
What I keep coming back to here is that the last time the gentleman in question couldn't show a loss or a gain. He just didn't have that.
Right.
Right now, I'm inclined to change my motion and
Yeah.
to change it from a disapprove to an approval of their appeal, because they're showing a loss or a gain, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's certainly the commercial production is probably where the issue rests in our opinion. The tax savings of your judgment is about $2,000 a year. The net income on this parcel for agricultural uses has been zero. Actually, the gross income has been zero, and a little and $1,000. So that's where the issue rests, in my opinion. What is the commercial production? If a passive income that generates a dollar amount is sufficient to award special valuation, then they certainly meet the test. If it's broader than that, if it's in the scope of special valuation, which is intended to, which was designed to allow people who are engaged in farming as a livelihood to continue their operation without the excessive tax burdens of development and other things, then they probably don't meet that in our opinion.
This was very enlightening to us to research all the links that go to LB whatever, and so I do believe in LB 808 or LB 166 does state you have to have 20 or more acres, which we do, and then $1,000 or more per year as income. So that is the income guidelines listed in that.
Yeah.
And we made $50 over that.
So,
Mr. Vest, did you have?
And if it wasn't for the COVID pandemic, we were,
Well on our way to more
yeah,
than that.
and now we're both retired.
Yeah, Commissioner Vest?
Darren, quick question on Greenbelt. If this is a state designation to
Correct.
protect landowners who are on property that could be valued higher because of development
Correct.
potential, over its income potential.
Correct.
So when the taxes are reduced, does the state supplement that?
No.
I mean, because like we have homestead exemption.
Right.
Where the state makes up the difference. In Greenbelt, nobody makes up the difference.
Correct.
We'd just be, in effect, lowering the
Yes.
property taxes for Lancaster County.
However, that has continued to rise over the years, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't we know it? Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we get lower, I mean, we're
Yeah, it
still
will.
paying. Well, no, we have a greenbelt status now.
Yeah.
So if we lose our greenbelt status, we will be paying
Then you would.
higher.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Unless, I mean, unless I'm not understanding something here, and the county attorney's office is free to, I remember that you were part of the conversation 14 months ago, so just do it off the top of your head, Dan, you'll be fine.
That's what he wanted.
Unless there's a reason, a compelling reason not to, I'm inclined to change my motion right now. And if the county attorney's office doesn't have anything, I think I'm going to.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm just not prepared to speak about
fine.
this. I was here for something else, so I really don't want to wade into the middle of this discussion at this point. I apologize.
Just pull you back into a conversation we had 14 months ago that you didn't get research at all on.
I'm married, I have enough of those conversations in my life, so I'm good.
And certainly, I think there are a lot of facts here, and they brought great information forward. And ultimately, it's the board's decision. And
Yeah, I'm gonna change my original motion to approve the appeal on disqualification from, right, special valuation. I did that correctly? That's what, they want approval, they do not want disapproval. There's a double negative in the sentence, right?
I'll second that, because I assume you're
Well,
I'm Mr.
amending the original.
Commissioner, yeah, you're amending it, you're making a motion to amend it. I will second your motion to amend it to be approved rather than deny.
Okay, we have a motion.
Hold on, are we doing that right procedurally? I'm not,
To approve the appeal. That's what you want to do?
Right.
I want to approve
Approve the appeal.
That's what I was just going to say.
To approve the
yeah.
appeal.
I am making a motion to approve the appeal. My original motion was to
To deny it.
deny it. I'm changing that motion to approve the appeal.
Yes, you're procedurally, I believe we're doing this right, but it's gonna take 2 votes, because it's gonna take a vote to amend the motion and then a vote to approve the amended motion.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so we didn't,
A vote on the amendment and then a vote on
Right.
the.
okay. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll on the amendment, the vote on the amendment?
Yes. Amundson?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Yocum?
Yes.
The motion to amend carries 5-0.
And now please call the roll on the motion to approve the appeal.
Schulte?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Yocum?
Yes.
Motion to approve carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out today.
And we have another one.
yes, the next.
Excuse me. 3B is Kimberly A. Klein.
Thank you.
Yes, and this parcel is, she also submitted a letter asking for another year to convert the property to agricultural use. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any mechanism to do that. We rule on the status as is, but certainly if that use changes in the coming year, we evaluate these on a case by or year by year basis.
Is there a there's no financial loss or gain that can be demonstrated?
Correct.
No one's here to talk on it?
Okay.
All right,
See no
then,
one.
then we'll go ahead and I will make a motion to deny the appeal for Kimberly Klein, 3B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny this claim. Please call the roll.
Vest?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Yocum?
Yes.
Motion to deny approved 5-0.
We will now open the public hearing.
Yes. Item 4A, exemptions to applications for 2023. Item 1 is recommended for approval.
Morning. You have to swear.
Yes. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please sign in and state your name.
Sure. Corey Beatty with the County Assessor Register of Deeds Office. Okay, so I'm here today to present the assessor's recommendations on 15 new tax exemption applications on real and personal property for the tax year 2023. These applications are from organizations applying for exemption in ownership and usage categories of agricultural, horticultural society, charitable, educational, religious, and/or cemetery. I believe on the agenda we had the applications sectioned out. So under the first item, we have 10 of the applications that we're recommending for approval. These include Allegiant Creighton Clinic, the Autism Center of Nebraska, Bryan Medical Center for property at 4101 Tiger Lily Road, Camp Sunshine, Cedar Hill Methodist Church, the Diocesan Housing Ministries, Lincoln Baptist Church, Princeton Countryside Alliance Church, St. Joseph Institute, and the University of Nebraska Foundation. So under all those applications, the assessor's office felt like they've met the criteria and we would recommend approval. Under the next section on the agenda, we do have one application that we are recommending approval of a portion of the property. That is Bryan Medical Center for property located at 2920 South 84th Street. I believe this is part of the former Allstate campus. I think there's 2 buildings in this area, both now owned by Bryan. We'll talk about the other one here in just a second. But this is for the property at 2920. Our recommendation is approval of a portion of the building. And the reason for that being is they're currently occupying 14,000 square feet, and the remaining part of that building is vacant. So under those circumstances, the vacant portion would not be entitled to the exemption. So we'd exempt just the portion currently being used by Bryan Medical Center. And then under the section, our recommendations for denial, there are 4 properties, 4 applications. We have AF 18R Lincoln, Bryan Medical Center for property at 2940 South 84th Street, Our Lady of Guadalupe Seminary, and Region 5 Services. I'm gonna bypass the AF 18R Lincoln application and we'll circle back around to that one. Might need to call in some reinforcements to speak more eloquently about that one. It's a little more complicated, but the Bryan Medical Center property at 2940 South 84th Street, they have indicated that they are currently leasing some space back to Allstate, and right now the rest of the building is vacant. They're not using it for any exempt purpose, so we're going to recommend denial of that application based on those facts. You may hear some different information because I'm sure there's some folks here also today to testify on some of these. But at the time that the information was submitted, that's what we're going with. The Our Lady of Guadalupe Seminary property was, I think, transferred from the Priestly Fraternity of St. Peter. And they indicated on their application that they're using the property for educational and spiritual formation of the seminarians. They're using some of the property for running and biking and walking trails, meditation and discussion. We did have appraisal staff go out and do a site visit, and the land appeared to be used for cutting hay at this point in time, and we could not determine that it's being used for an exempt purpose, so that's the reason for our denial. Region 5 Services at 4430 South 70th Street, they're currently leasing just under 12,000 square feet to Upland Software and just under 9,000 square feet to Dormy Network. I believe they have future intentions of using the rest of the building for Region 5 services, but at this point in time, they have not done anything, have not occupied it, have not started any construction or renovations to repurpose it for their use, so it is more or less vacant. So since they're leasing the space to other entities and not utilizing it for themselves, we'd recommend denial of that application as well. And then the last application that we have is the AF18R Lincoln, and I'm going to ask Dan to help me out with this one. Thank you, Dan.
So this is student housing, or referred to as student housing at 18th and R. The land is owned by the university. Oh.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
We do.
Please sign in.
My name is Dan Zig with the County Attorney's Office. This is what's referred to as student housing, where it's an apartment complex at 18th and R. The land there is owned by the university. They then lease it out to a company to build up the apartment complex, and then there's kind of a lease back where now they hold on to it for 25 years or so, and then ideally it'll go back to the university, but it could be continued on. They are renting the apartments out to the general public. There's no restriction that you be a student or anything like that. Looking at what they're doing compared to like 8N and Latitude, they're charging very similar rents. Really, this isn't any different than when we saw at the Union, where you have the Wendy's across the street that's paying taxes, but the Valentino's inside the Union is not paying taxes. It doesn't really meet the qualifications for exemption, so we are recommending a denial based on that.
That's item 3A, right?
Yes, I believe that is.
Great. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Corey, could I ask you, maybe you're the right person, maybe you're not. Can you just clarify for me on the Bryan property? So there's an approval of a portion in 2, and there's a denial in 3. Are those 2 separate properties, or is that the same property?
2 separate properties, 2920 and 2940.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They're adjacent, I believe.
So,
but
so the portion, so the denial is for the building that is being leased back to Allstate and unoccupied.
Correct.
And the portion that is approval of a portion is the building where they have some offices, but the rest is
Correct. So at
vacant,
29.
or what's the rest of the building?
Yes, it's vacant. It was indicated to us at the time they applied that the rest of it is vacant. So yeah, about 14,000 square feet of the 2920 building is being used currently by Bryan. I believe they indicated it for administrative, medical record storage, purchasing functions, that sort of thing.
And Mr. Zieg, is it the policy, the rule, whatever it is, that vacant property is not considered tax exempt?
You have to look at the use
Okay.
of it, and since it's not being put in use at this point, it would not get that exemption.
Okay. Continue on, a question on the Our Lady of Guadalupe land. The application says they're using it for some spiritual formation. You said it appears that it's being used for hay. Is it adjacent to other property that they have where it can be used as well, or is it not adjacent?
So I looked into this. I think they bought the parcel just to the south of it. It's also basically farmland. Their actual like seminary building, I believe it's further to the southwest of where this is located. So it's not like the seminary building's the next parcel over and they could build to expand this. These are separated by several miles.
Okay. So it wouldn't be, I guess what I was trying to envision, like, is this incidentally used by people who are just going out for a spiritual walk? But you're saying it's far enough away that they would have to make an intention to leave?
Yes, you would have to drive to it.
Okay, okay. Thanks for that clarification, I appreciate it.
thanks, Dan. Is there anyone else to speak on these 451 exemption applications?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and sign in. I'll do it together. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, please also state your name and sign in.
Melissa Schwab.
And I'm Mike DeWerf. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Bryan Health.
Thank you for sitting through a long meeting, and this one is equally long.
Just want to make some comments on the 2 properties that we're asking for exemption on. The 2920, it is currently used by our purchasing department and some back office billing. The rest of it is being used for storage, for office equipment, and various other furniture and whatnot that will eventually be used by support services related to the tax-exempt purpose. We're currently working with architects and office designers to get that ready, start that move-in process here this summer or fall, and that'll be about a 2-year process. 2940 does have the Allstate folks renting about 6,000 square feet. It's our understanding that they're currently designing office space in another location. We'll be moving out here in about 3 or 4 months. And at that time, we'll start occupying that property. It also contains office equipment, furniture, and other stuff related to our tax-exempt purpose. Otherwise, we're here just answering any other questions you might have.
And the furniture that's being stored related to your tax-exempt business is not being used at this point. That is unoccupied space,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Is storage would that be considered a tax exempt?
We have storage in our current tax-exempt buildings.
That's true. You guys have storage there at the hospital, I'm sure. Dan, can I just ask a procedural question for you? Just so, again, this is, as you know, it's still new to me, so I'm trying to figure this out. So if an application is approved or denied, and a year from now, the use changes, can an organization then reapply, or is this like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing?
Nope, they have to apply, basically on years that end in a divisible by 4, they have to apply, otherwise they file a reaffirmation. If the use changes, though, they can always come back and redo it. In fact, even within the year, they can file to have it changed as well if the use changes. Now, there kind of becomes a drop-dead date, where if it's after that point it gets used as an exempt purpose, then they just have to wait until the next year. But they could come back theoretically next month and say, hey, now we're using it or something, and we can change it at that time.
As I am reading this, is it possible for us to approve or to section out an individual property because they were presented to us as a whole package of these 4 and this one? And
so in terms of like the ones that they're recommending that the approval on, yes, if you said that you wanted to approve 4 of the 5, however many are there, you could do that and vote differently on another one.
Okay. And Corey, this might be a question for you or Mr. Zieg, but 2920, which is 2920 is the one that's partially occupied by you guys, correct? But, well, I mean, it's occupied by you, but it's not the Allstate building, is my clarification, correct?
Correct.
And that's the one that is included in the approval of a portion, correct?
Where Brian's staff is technically utilizing, they have people utilizing a portion of that building.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My tendency would be to say I don't really want to get into counting square foot, especially if they're moving. My tendency would be to say that we should approve 2920 as tax exempt, but 2940 which is partially occupied by Allstate, should not be approved. So I'm not exactly sure how to make that motion since it's in multiple pieces there. So if I could get some help, that'd be helpful.
I'd like to ask one more question. So part of the building, part that is proposed to be not exempt, is being used for storage. It will eventually be, the office equipment will be occupied and that equipment will be used. But do we typically count storage that's not being occupied? I guess I want to know how that typically is handled.
You're talking about in the 2920 building?
Yeah.
Yes.
Assessor staff is shaking their head yes.
You're saying?
I mean, I guess to what the point she made a little bit ago, they have storage at Bryan Hospital that is tax exempt. You know, we're not parsing out that.
Part of a larger facility that is engaged in a tax exempt operation. I mean, every business has storage.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
We have storage in this building.
That's what I'm trying to get to the distinction of. Everybody has a storage closet, right? But when it's a large space that is storage.
And we're basing our recommendation off information that was provided to us saying that, Brian is currently occupying around 14,000 square feet of the building and 66,000 plus is remaining vacant.
Yeah.
So we're basing our recommendation on that a considerable amount of that building is vacant. guess there might be systems furniture in there and other things, but I believe that, you know,
Yeah, we'd have to
because-
rent space to move all that furniture out of there.
Sure, yeah.
But like Dan mentioned, I know there is a caveat saying that if you convert usage of that space between now and I think the cutoff is July 1, I believe, that you can come back to us with an application and we can review that. We would send somebody out and review that. And
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, that seems like that would be appropriate. I think I'm much more familiar with the Region 5 services building because I'm on that governing board, and I know that will be occupied, and I'm sure they will come back and ask for that exemption once that's completed, yeah. Any other questions or comments? Any other public comment? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now close the hearing on the 451 exemption applications. The action item is further on the agenda.
Item 4B is the motor vehicle tax exemptions public hearing for Bluestem Health and Cedars Youth Services.
We'll now open the public hearing for the motor vehicle tax exemption applications. Is there anyone here to speak on these? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing and proceed with the action item.
Item 5 is action on the following. A, the 451 exemption applications for 2023. Commissioners, you have the recommendations for approval, the recommendation for approval of a portion, and the recommendation for a denial.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommended for approval and the recommended for denial.
So that's what was 4A1 and 4A3?
Correct, yeah.
I'll second
All
that.
right, yeah.
5A1 and
Sorry,
5A3 now.
5A1, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, in the public hearing.
Right,
Yes,
right.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve items 1 and 3, 5A1 and 5A3. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
So now I'd like to make a motion to, this is where I'm gonna need help of whether or not I'm approving or denying I would like to approve the Bryan 2920 building as tax exempt. So I'll do that first.
The totality of
The, I was going to say the entire property or the total property, something that
The whole
clarifies that.
building of 2920.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
I would recommend approval of the portion as indicated by staff.
As recommended by staff, yes, I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any more comment? Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
I'll vote no.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Move approval of the motor vehicle tax exemption applications.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 6 is public comment. Those wishing to speak on items related to County Board of Equalization business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
Is there anyone here to speak on the County Board of Equalization business not on the agenda?
Excuse me, could you repeat that?
Yes. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on items relating to County Board of Equalization business that is not on the agenda?
Yes, that would be me. My name is Fred Hoppy. I live at 1600 Stony Hill Road, Lincoln, Nebraska. It's in Lancaster County. I'm here to actually request that you dismiss an action taken by this board at the Turk and Tax Equalization and Review Commission, and it is an action against a number of low-income housing tax credit projects in Lancaster County. Let me give you a background. First of all, I'm in the low-income housing tax credit business. I build low-income housing. I also build workforce housing, but that's my niche, okay? And I build it all over the state. I build it in Valentine, Lexington, and I don't know, 8 or 10 counties. And I'm very familiar, been doing it a while, pretty familiar with how these projects are taxed and the history of how these projects are taxed. First of all, let me tell you what low-income housing, capital A affordable is. It's a deal with the federal government that says, I will rent to people 60% median income and below for 15 years if you give me a tax credit on calculate against the basis of the property for 10 years. And in that process, to enforce that deal, we file what is known as a LURA, Land Use Restriction Agreement, which establishes the rents we can charge and the activities we have to do at those properties during the course of the 15 years. Those activities may cost a lot. I have one project where the activities we do is provide supportive services for persons with severe mental illness. That happens to be one of the projects that's involved in the lawsuit you file. But that comes at an expense. Quite an expense, as a matter of fact. And what we're talking about here is the way several years ago we pushed, those of us in the industry, pushed for a standardization way to value low-income tax credit projects. It was put in the statutes at 77-1333. And it said, to make this work for everybody across the state, we're going to tax at actual value minus actual expense capitalized. And that recognition of actual income versus actual expense capitalized expresses the differences between requirements under land use restriction agreements among all the different properties. Okay? And when I'm saying that is, in my LURA for Creekside, it says I have to provide these services to these tenants. Could I get an extension of time? It's kind of
Over the minute, and we'll see if there are questions. How about that?
Okay, thank you. So in any case, we got that situation. All the counties are valuing based on the statutory formula. The only one that's not appears to be represented by your action in Turk. What this does is it really throws a problem to running operations and putting the affordable housing in Lancaster County, because we can't predict what the taxes are going to be. Now, we know we build, yeah, okay, the example, I looked at the motion that was passed previously, and I looked at the example, one of the examples for why, first of all, actual value.
I'm going to ask a question here because I do want to hear the rest of your argument here. I think that, I'm not sure that we had the information that you were providing services in this particular property that you're talking about, and that does make sense to me,
Okay,
what you're
that's
saying.
what I'm saying. The action you took to move all of those cases to Turk are based on insufficient information. Consequently, it seems to me that the action was a little premature, and I'm asking you to dismiss it. if the county wants to talk to us purveyors of affordable housing and explain why the actions are, or the income and expenses are how they are, and why the valuation should be based on that, we'd be happy to as a group, or individually, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not the only one, and I'm one of, I don't know, a dozen, 20 interested parties in the action at Turk. We're having a meeting at 11:30, those of us, but not just those of us. Every one of the purveyors, the major affordable housing producers in the state, is getting together because this is like a kick in the teeth to what we tried to do to establish the method for valuing affordable housing because of the idiosyncrasies of affordable housing. We're committed to certain incomes and we're committed to certain expenses. And consequently, and also another thing that needs to be explained, is during the 15-year period, there's almost no transfers of the property. Secondarily, the properties are almost always, if there's low-income tax credit involved, the properties are all single-purpose tax-paying entities. They have to be, or you can't get a value of a tax credit. So the information, I looked at the motion and the information that was presented in your motion, and there's just an awful lot of misinformation in there. First of all, the concept, there's a concept raised in that there is some other actual value than the actual value that's determined by the statutory method. And it appears from that maybe that concept of actual value that was presented to you is based on a 45% expense ratio. Well, the whole concept that we have the problem with is our expenses are not ordinary and normal that you may have if you were running a market rate building. They're quite a bit different, quite a bit more. That's why we pushed for that type and got that type of valuation process put in the statutes. And as a matter of fact, you may have been told that 45 is the number, but if you go to the state average, it's somewhere in the 70s for tax credit properties and what they have for expenses. So I'm asking you that you dismiss that action. If you don't like negotiation with us or talking to us or getting to a full understanding of how that works, how the processes work, and how integral it is, how important it is to have a consistency of taxation for across the board for all the states and all the counties, or all, the state and all the counties, you can bring an action again next year if you don't like it. But the statute's there for a reason. And it's there to get a consistency in valuation. Now you may say, okay, well, there's some properties that are valued, if you use this figure, they're valued at zero. Well, that's not true. Every one of those has value.
Let's talk
Every
about
one
this.
of those in the list has a value. It's arbitrarily, I don't know how they came up at land value versus building value, but at the end of the day, they have value.
Let's talk about this offline with the
Yeah.
county attorney's office. I'm not opposed to looking at it again.
I just don't think we can take an action
Yeah,
at
we
this,
can't.
in
We
this
literally
moment. We
can't take an action.
cannot.
Here's the problem,
Oh.
Fred. This is public comment. We are actually not supposed to interact with those making public comment because it's not on the agenda. So,
Yeah.
Commissioner Flowerday, I heard you suggest we talk to the county attorney's office about where we're at in the process and what our options are. I think that's a really good idea, and we should follow up on that.
Can I ask one clarifying question to the public? You used the term statutory value a couple times.
Yeah.
You also talked about federal taxes and state taxes. When you say statutory value, are you talking about, is that a Nebraska statute? Is that
Yes.
an IRS, or is that a federal? Just help me out with that.
There is a Nebraska statute, 77-1333. That statute gives a method for valuing low-income housing tax credit properties
Okay.
in Nebraska. It's followed by, I don't know, what are there, 96 counties? Until this, it was followed by 96. Now it's followed by 95. So, but here's the problem of, there's a hearing is set for March 2nd. I don't think you guys have, so we would ask that that hearing, if nothing else, be that the county would support our request or a request for a continuance of that hearing, because I think when you get into this, you're not gonna like what you did. And from my understanding, you guys might not have known exactly what all was going on. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to.
Do we want a motion here?
We can't make.
No, we can't.
We can't make a motion.
Public hearing. I
Right.
didn't
What-
think so,
what
but
we-
I
We're
thought-
we're directing the county attorney's office to have a conversation with us about it later.
We will.
Yeah.
Okay.
We hear you,
Thank
and
you.
we'll need to find out what we can do procedurally.
Huh?
So
What?
we'll answer questions at that time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move your adjourn,
Second.
unless within.
We have a motion?
Or did I skip over an announcement?
Oh, just a second. Is
Oh,
there other?
you're right.
Are there other folks?
I don't know.
You're right.
Is there anyone else here for public comment?
I'm just curious as heck, that's all.
Okay.
Guess not.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned.
Did the county clerk's office?